Imagine watching someone close to you slowly start to fade. They are no longer able to dress themselves, or make it to the bathroom on time, or even able to make their own food. They have lost their ability to care for themselves as they once had. And the only wish they have is to be able to end it all. The word euthanasia is of Greek origin and means putting an incurably sick person to a good death in order to shorten their suffering. Euthanasia is used as a means to an end for those who have no other choice than to suffer for the rest of their lives. There are found to be 3 forms of euthanasia. These are voluntary, non-voluntary, and involuntary euthanasia. Voluntary euthanasia is when a person who is dying decides when and where to end his or her life. Non-voluntary euthanasia is when someone who has the right to decide for a person who is dying, who cannot choose for themselves, decides to end the dying person's life. The 3rd form is involuntary euthanasia. This is when a dying person is able to consent, but does not, and euthanasia is performed without their permission. Euthanasia is done in 2 ways. These include assisted suicide and physician-assisted dying. Assisted suicide is when the physician gives the patient whom has decided he or she no longer wants to live a lethal dose of medication in which the person administers to themselves. Physician-assisted dying means that the medical physician is the one who administers the lethal dose to the patient. Legalizing euthanasia would give those that have an incurable disease an end to their suffering. It would also mean that people who are in pain and no longer want to live have the choice to end their life on their terms. People who choose euthanasia also get to choose to die with their dignity still intact. Legalizing euthanasia gives those with an incurable disease a choice to end their pain. This means that they are dealing with an illness such as terminal cancer. Terminal cancer is a disease in which treatment often leads to even more pain than that of the actual disease. People who deal with the disease have the option to not seek treatment and live with the choice of dying a slow, painful death, or they can choose to be euthanized and not have to undergo the excruciating pain of treatment or watching their body slowly die. People with such a disease believe that ending their life is better than living through the pain they would feel every day until the end comes. The next support for legalizing euthanasia gives those that want to end their life a way to end it on their own terms. According to Chris Leducier, the primary reasons given for requesting euthanasia was loss of autonomy and control, unacceptable quality of life, loss of independence, loss of physical abilities, incapacity or difficulty communicating, loss of pleasure, and suffering or fear of suffering. When people choose to die, it is usually not in the way of the dying party. Euthanasia gives those who have no choice of getting better a choice in how they die, who they die around, and where they die. This means that the whole process of their death is all their choice. Lastly, euthanasia gives those that are dying a chance to die with their dignity still intact. When you have grown accustomed to taking care of yourself and those before you, slowly diminishing and not being able to take care of yourself is disheartening. People begin to feel as though their life is no longer worth living because they have become unable to care for themselves anymore and have become a burden. When someone is dying, they slowly lose their vital functions, such as how being able to use the bathroom on their own, showering on their own, feeding themselves, dressing themselves. All of these things they had the ability to do at some point in time, and losing that ability is a huge part of how they lose their dignity. As we look back, we can see that there are several logical reasons as to why euthanasia should be legalized. These include those with an incurable disease will be able to end their suffering. They will be able to die with dignity, and they will get to choose when and where they die.